The athletes involved in the making of this production are not in any way involved in sports wagering. This is purely for educational purposes on the implications of the sports betting industry on athletes. Welcome to episode 3 of Pressure and Profit, How Betting Affects Athletes. I'm your host, Katie Boff, and we are officially on episode 3. So crazy. On this podcast, I interview UGA athletes on the pressures of the growing betting world, but I want to make this huge disclaimer that I do every single time, that no athlete that I interview is involved in any form of sports wagering. This is purely for educational purposes on how this growing industry affects the mental health of high-performing athletes on the huge stage that they are playing on. So today, on today's episode, we will be diving into the world of college baseball. For those who are curious, I'm very excited for this interview. We have a star transfer from Virginia Commonwealth University, a newly inducted Bulldog. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Brian Curley.
Hi, Katie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing well.
It is a Tuesday morning. It's 9:20 a.m., and we are in the studio, a new studio. So yeah, don't get used to this studio. This one's a new one, but it's a nice one. So we are excited to be here, and we are so grateful that you are on the show. So we're talking, ladies and gentlemen, with one of the most talked about arms in college baseball right now. Brian, you're a junior, Virginia native. You spent your first 2 seasons at VCU. You were just drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 16th round in the 2024 MLB draft, but decided to come back to college ball, and Georgia is very thankful for it. This season, you have been electric with a season-high 9 strikeouts against Texas, already gone viral twice, one for a face that you made before a pitch that called the game against KSU, and one for a 100-mile-per-hour pitch with a dramatic pause right before it. Can we talk about your viral moments and what your initial reaction was to seeing, I guess, the first video?
I guess we can. What do you got for me?
Well, what was your reaction?
To the tongue or the pause?
Which the face was first, right?
Yeah, the face was second, actually.
Okay, then the pause.
The pause was kind of my welcome to the SEC. It was my first experience with a lot more eyes on me than I'm used to. So when I actually did something that was out of the ordinary, it got caught on camera and blew up widely because of the letter on my chest, which was pretty cool. So that was my first outing as Bulldog, and it was at UNC Wilmington in front of probably maybe 600, 700 people, which isn't a lot compared to the SEC crowds we have now. But I still had a lot of adrenaline. That was probably the most adrenaline I had all season, and it was in a lower stakes game. Mm-hmm. So that was a cool time to do it because it was something I wasn't expecting.
So you intentionally did that?
Not for views.
Right.
Not for views, but that's like something that I've been doing in the preseason and off season was working on messing with hitters' timing, just changing up leg lifts. So at the time I had something that I called Nestor Cortez, which is a pitcher who played for the Yankees last year. I forgot who he got traded to this year. But he messed with timing by, he'd raise his leg and he'd go through a bunch of different motions before he actually delivered the pitch. And I was inspired a lot by that. So I developed a pause, a double pump, a Cortez, quote unquote, and then a quick pitch. So those are all in my arsenal at the start of the season until the third pitch of that outing. I didn't get it banned. It was deemed illegal, which I don't know is entirely how it's supposed to be, but the pause is definitely supposed to be illegal.
The pause is illegal?
Yes, the pause is technically illegal.
And you were playing with fire?
Yeah, a little bit. They just call it an illegal pitch, and then they give you a ball. It's not that deep if you're ahead in the count.
I see. So were people sending you the videos, other friends at other schools or anything like that?
Yes, I had that sent to me by quite a few friends, and that was the one that was a little more mild. That one didn't go as big as the face
one. What'd you respond to the people when they sent it to you? Were you just like, hey, that's me?
I just liked it and said LOL
That was your standard reaction to it.
I might have said
Liked an
thanks.
LOL.
I might have said thanks because most people would say beast or like
Oh,
some
I
BS like
see.
with a compliment.
I see.
So I would give them a thanks.
What did your family say?
My dad was pretty excited about it. My mom isn't a huge social media person, but she saw it and was like, "That's cool, that's cool."
Aw.
So I get some from my cousin too. Like my cousin sent it to me. You're like, my coworker just showed me this and asked me if you were related to me. I was like, "That's pretty cool."
Oh, I was like, wait, coworker?
Yeah, my cousin's
I
coworker.
I see. I was like, there's no way
that I have coworkers.
well, because you don't have time.
No, I don't have coworkers.
Right.
I don't have coworkers.
Okay, so kind of talking about the face thing, and you and I talked about this the other day, but on the mound, you have some particular tendencies. I think you've talked about how you like listen to music and you try to like dissociate maybe a little bit, if that's the right word. If it's not, correct me. But what is this all about? Like, what are you doing?
I don't think dissociate's a bad word. I think it's kind of an example of one of the mechanisms I use to keep the game slow. I think that we talk about that a lot in baseball, is slowing the game down and not letting it control us. So we, like, as a pitcher, like, I know that I dictate the pace of the game. And also that's a little disrupted by the pitch clock, but that's beside the point.
Right.
So it's keeping the controllables controllable. So I either dance insanely out of rhythm or like tap my head, because I think that it's a way for me to settle down. Like it just keeps me loose. Something that like I've always done, like in practice. I like moving around. Like I like when I'm amped up. I don't know.
So you dance off beat.
Dance off beat. It's not. I don't dance off beat intentionally.
Oh,
It's
okay.
I wish it was intentional.
You're trying to dance
yeah,
on
no,
beat,
I have no
but-
rhythm. I'll tell people like the only time that I actually have rhythm is when I'm pitching. Like my delivery is the only part of me that has rhythm.
Interesting.
And, like it's bad.
And then you but you do this like the whole time, and this is
Generally, something I've noticed is it changes depending on pressure situations. Like the lower the pressure, it helps me. The lower the pressure situation, the more it helps me stay locked in. It's kind of a way for me to create an environment to focus. But when the environment changes and I have to lock in and focus, my demeanor changes with it a little bit. So it's kind of like trying to create my own stressor, I guess. It's not necessarily like
I see.
a stressor in the same way it releases the same stress hormones, but it's
Yeah.
a way to like maintain adrenaline in lower
and be
lower stress
consistent in
situations.
all of the games, regardless of like the stakes of the
Yes.
game.
So
I see.
we have a KSU game coming up today, and we played KSU the
Recreate
fifth
it.
game of the season, and that's when I went viral for the face thing. That one was much different than the pause because this was just silly. At some point, I had Stephen A. Smith talking smack about me, so that was a cool experience. That was new. I'm gonna be completely honest. We were playing. So KSU's on a they're on a supplemental field right now because their stadium's under construction. So when we got there, I didn't know that game was broadcasted,
Right.
but I forgot that it's the SEC and everything pretty much has to be on camera. So this was a real welcome to the SEC, that this is on camera and it's everywhere immediately. So
Yeah.
the kind of process to that was like, I looked at second base. It was like second to last. Oh, I did it 2 pitches in a row. I did it the pitch before. And we like what we talk about as pitchers and my whole life is like control the running game, right? So there's a runner on second. I was thinking to myself, I was like, if I stick my tongue out at this guy, there's no chance he steals. No chance. And that was the only motivation behind it. It wasn't to like taunt the guy. It wasn't to like mess with that team. That game was very chippy. And realistically, I probably wouldn't have done it if it wasn't as chippy. But it put me in a situation where I was like, you know what? I'm just enjoying myself a lot more than everyone else that's at this field. And I'm just going to, like, I'm not going to necessarily make it apparent, make a show of it. But it was like, I'm enjoying myself. I'm comfortable. I'm going to do whatever I want to do.
What do your teammates say about it?
Well, Leighton, one of my close friends on the team, gives me a lot of crap about it. He says I'm clip farming, that I'm doing things just for views. Yeah. And it's like, I really don't think that's me. But if he wants to believe that, that's fine. But if I was clip farming, I probably have done one or two things just randomly that I think are funny that haven't gotten picked up, which is good. But it's not really with the intention to get attention.
To do that, yeah.
Yeah.
So this podcast is called Pressure and Profit, and you were literally just talking about like creating the perfect amount of pressure, I guess, like in low stakes games, adding the pressure, in high stakes games, taking away the pressure, I guess, with what you do. And at a university like this, like you're saying, like, welcome to the SEC, things are very different from your other school. And with all the eyes on y'all and you specifically as a pitcher, the weight to perform is like astronomical. And clearly I think you're a great example of like just how severe, like how important the like amount of pressure you feel is. You know what I mean? Like you do your very best to like control that pressure to you and to not like mold to the environment. You know what I mean? So today we're going to be talking about the pressures of betting on pitchers specifically because of just the influence that y'all have. You literally just said a couple minutes ago that like you control a lot of factors in the game. So as a pitcher, how do you feel knowing that people have always seen your position as one of the most like controllable positions when it comes to like betting outcomes? That's like a really loaded question, and I'm really sorry about that. But basically, like, do you ever feel more pressure because your position is more influential
on it's the one that people are most likely to bet on because of the predictability, I guess. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. So I really don't concern myself too much with fan outcomes. Like that's something, like I care about the fans and I appreciate the support, but at the end of the day, when I'm on the field, my only goal is to execute. Like I'm not concerning myself with any external stressors other than the execution of a pitch. I have gotten a text from one of my buddies. This is the KSU game, actually. I got text like 20 minutes after he sent me the clip, and he texted me, he said, oh, so it was, I came in the bottom of the ninth in a 2-run game. So I think we were up maybe 6-4, 5-3. And he texted me, he said, nice job. My buddy had 150 on you to cover 2 runs. You hit. Good job. So I was like, cool, dude. I was like, I it took a lot out of me to say really good bet because that like, you know what? If I'm a fan, I think I'd put my money on me, but if that's insider information or whatever, it doesn't matter. Right. But I was like, if he lost that money, it's not going to affect how I feel. Like it, okay. Like, and I think that's part. It's like, you know what? Especially with gambling, like my opinion on gambling is relatively strong. It's like I don't think you should take risks on things that that are unpredictable. And if you do, it's not my fault. It's like you made a bad decision, and that's kind of my view on that. There's like maybe that's insensitive, or that's not insensitive because it's gambling. Like at the end of the day, it generally leads to addiction.
Yeah, like
but
yeah. I mean, how can somebody like with confidence get mad at somebody else for something that was never certain anyways? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But y'all obviously feel the force from that when, you know, people talk about those things. And I think I didn't even really think about, like, before I started doing these episodes, like, I never thought about the fact that, like, people talk to y'all even, like, about it even when you do well, you know, and how that could probably, I guess, you do a good job of like not letting that stuff get to you, but some people probably do, and they're like, wait, and it just like pops into their head sometimes. They're like, not that is like really driving their motivation in their performance, but that like it could pop in there sometimes.
Yeah, it could be in like just something that's subconscious.
Yeah.
I will say I'm not one of those people. I think I will never consider someone's money line until after I've blown it. I'll sit there. If I blow someone's money line, I'll probably just chuckle, say, whoops, sorry about it, and then move on. Because that's how I flush like bad outings too, like bad performances. It's like, well, that happened, so be it, move on. And that's the only way to perform in high pressure situations as a higher performance athlete. I think the only way that you can do these things effectively over time is to have a short memory.
Do you think that anybody on the team like thinks about it?
I'm sure there's people that consider it, but I don't think we have anybody that are actually I know we have people that think about it. I also know that we have no one that it readily affects. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's interesting because y'all in your position, like the live betting is a huge thing for pitching because like literally every single pitch can be bet on.
Yes.
And I mean more than just each pitch, but like that's huge, you know? And like every single pitch has like a whole like routine to it that it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like that could be a lot of pressure.
I think that's definitely an interesting perspective. I think at UGA at least we're more concerned about our internal statistics that we're not concerned about live betting after bad performances.
Right.
Like we're looking at our earlier in ahead percentage, our walk rate, our strikeout rate, like all of the other key performance indicators that will hopefully get us to the next level. That we're not as concerned with betting outcomes.
Yeah. So like after the game, we were talking about earlier how you don't think about the missed pitches like in the game. But then after the game, that's
yes.
You're saying that you think about it sometimes.
I'll sit down and look at film from 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. thinking about what I could have done better. It's like, all right, I missed here. Why did I miss here? And then it's just looking for ways to improve rather than dwelling on the result.
Mm-hmm. But all of that is not related to betting. Like you're not like, oh, man, I bet that probably affected somebody. Like you're just like, I need to do that better for
me.
Yeah.
It's like, it sounds selfish, but it's really not because it's my career. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? I will, if I consider a bet after a game, it's usually a scoff and like, well, sorry. And it's not anything that is actually going to affect the way I live my life. I think a lot of that comes down to where I find my identity as well. And I think that if I had to offer any advice to athletes that are struggling with the pressures of live betting, I would tell them to make sure that they know where their identity is. And for me, that's been in Jesus over the last 2 years, especially. Just having that change of perspective just has reduced performance anxiety so much. It's like I know that at the end of the day, if I have a bad outing, that I find my identity in a God that loves me and sacrificed his son for me. So with that in mind, it makes performance seem so much less important, which it really is in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. You're not here to perform. You're here to love Jesus.
Absolutely.
Just so happens that you can use this to tell more people about it, which is great. Okay, so in terms we're going to talk a little bit about like baseball betting scandals, which I talked about betting scandals a little bit. Like I talked about match fixing on my last episode with Parker Jakes, and because it's a huge thing in tennis. But in terms of baseball betting scandals, there's a lot to do with pitchers, you know, with the influence that y'all have on the game.
Yeah.
And
pitchers are scumbags. I get it.
Don't say that.
Historically, a little bit.
Perchance. Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of context, which I'm sure that you know about this. Can you guess what I'm about to tell you about? Like one of the most famous betting scandals ever?
I don't think I can guess it.
You can't guess it?
I don't. I told you.
With baseball?
Say it and I'll know it.
1919.
Oh, the Chicago Black Sox?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so.
All right. Yeah. I needed an era. And my first thought was Pete Rose.
Right.
Which, I don't know. Pete needs to be in the Hall.
Oh, okay. We're going to talk a little bit about Eddie Cicotte, who was a pitcher in the Chicago Black Sox scandal. Okay?
Cool.
So, he was at the Red Sox first, and his career was mediocre. And all of this information, I'm going to link it to this YouTube. There's a YouTube video that I'll link in the description box below that gave me a lot of this context as to what I'm about to share to you. All right, so Eddie, he was injured in 1918. He bounced back in 1919. He led the league in 1919. He led the league in wins, win-loss percentage, complete games, innings pitched, and walks per 9 innings. And then came the 1919 World Series, and he was supposed to get a bonus, but was denied this. There's like speculation about all this, and was benched. So it was like supposed to get some bonus, supposedly didn't get it, and then all that stuff. And this is what many people believe is like the reason why this scandal took place. But he was approached by some teammates to throw the games, and he agreed for $10,000. And like at one point he woke up and there was $10,000 underneath his pillow. It's like just really weird, but whatever. Okay, Cicotte, he started game 1. They lost game 1. Speculation, though, that his shoulder injury resurfaced. There was no like, oh, surely this game was fixed. They didn't think that after game 1. He didn't play game 2, but they lost game 2 because another pitcher who was in on it was, he was pitching game 2.
Yeah.
They lost.
He couldn't really control it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. They won game 3. And then I guess throughout this whole thing, they weren't getting paid by the gamblers yet, so they tried to come back. Like they tried to not let the bet
they tried to not
hit.
blow it.
Yeah, they were like, "Wait, no, we're not going to throw all of this away anymore." So because the gamblers hadn't paid them yet, which I think is interesting because maybe it was a collective thing because I know that Eddie was paid the $10,000. But regardless, okay.
How many? Do you know how many members of the team it was?
8 members.
That's a lot. That's a lot more than I thought. I don't know how many I thought it was.
Yeah, 8. Okay, so let's see. What else? So in the end, the Reds, they won the series 5-3. Okay. There were lots of pitchers involved in the fix, multiple of them. And then the gamblers. So then after that, there came suspicion. And it wasn't about his shoulder injury anymore. And people were like, wait, and like betting scandals started to surface at this point. And then they were like looking at the World Series to be like, wait, was this fixed? So then they investigate it. Gamblers, they identify Cicotte. He comes out. He confesses. He identifies his teammates. They come out. They confess. And supposedly, Eddie Cicotte says, quote, "I needed the money. I had a wife and kids." So what do you have to say about that?
Well, if there's ever a reason, that's probably it.
Oh, okay.
Still not very moral, but
do you think that that's actually the reason though? Like there's no no.
I don't know. Who knows? That seems like something to save a little bit of face. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It all
That's
comes
an
from
excuse.
greed.
Great. Yeah, it does come from greed and it's a bad decision. So for those who are thinking about it, don't do it. Do you ever feel like people are skeptical about your performances ever? Surely not,
No,
right?
I hope not, because I think it's pretty clear that I'm giving everything I got whenever I'm on the mound.
Yeah. Do you think that scandals like that are shaping how people view baseball in like betting in baseball today? Like,
I
and
don't.
I guess
I
Pete
don't think
Rose
so.
too. Like, are people? Do you feel like there's like a natural skepticism against the sport ever?
In my experience, no, because I think any scandal in the last like 5 to 10 years has probably been based on trying to win. So it's if anything, if people are cheating or affecting the game, it's to try and get an advantage, and that's the way the game's getting. I think it's becoming much more cutthroat than it used to be, at least for some organizations. The goal to outperform others has never been more influential, and I think the benefits of being a good baseball player have also never been more. There's never been a better time to be great at baseball, just because the way that payments and contracts are going, everything's increasing, especially at the major league level when you get to arbitration. So I think that it's very rare that a player is going to have a benefit from helping gamblers, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, if you look at the league minimum $780,000 today, and I think that anybody that's making league minimum generally doesn't have as much leverage as the player that's on a multi-million-dollar contract, so they're going to have less impact on the game. So these people that are getting paid league minimum are going to, one, have lower chance to impact the outcome of a game, and two, they're also going to be sacrificing $780,000, which is more than enough to support family, and even in our economy now.
With what he's saying, I have a wife and kids.
Yeah, like I don't know, maybe Major League Pay was a little different in 1919, which even adjusted to inflation. But I think that problem is not almost non-existent in MLB today.
Interesting.
But
what do you think should happen to people who fix games? Are you like, because they get banned?
Yeah,
are you in agreement with that?
I agree with that. I think people that fix games shouldn't be allowed to play baseball anymore.
Right. Has anyone ever approached you to like influence anything? Even if it seems like a little like spam DM, like has anyone ever like asked you to do something specific?
No, not any. No one's DM'd me or like reached out explicitly. Of course, your friends joke. Like I'll have friends be like, "Hey, so we can count on you to blow this one, right?"
And you're like, "Wait."
Like, no. It's like, that's funny, but that's affecting my pockets a lot more than it affects your pockets to blow games.
Yeah, yeah.
So, the benefits are so minuscule, like for such a high risk.
Do you think with NIL that it fixes some of the problem that it could, if it were to potentially happen in college ball, that like now it's like, wait, there's less incentive to bet because people are getting paid?
I suppose so. I actually haven't really thought about that. I also haven't really realized how large live betting is in general and how big live betting is in college baseball.
Yeah. You can bet like when you're going to get pulled from the game too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's crazy. Yeah, I will not be helping people out on that one.
Pitchers are the most targetable position for micro betting. Crazy. Do you know anybody? I mean, I don't know if anyone would share this with you, but like, if anybody that you know has been approached to throw things, like actually seriously and not seriously,
not in a legitimate capacity.
And probably if they did, they were probably way too scared to like tell anybody about it too.
Yes. Well, we've got some guys who would probably just toss it out in the locker room be like, how ridiculous is this? It's like if anything like that's it's never, I've never heard anything serious in around the locker room.
Right. Well, okay, so now we're gonna look at more recent scandals. So
I also think that in the college locker room, the culture is so different than professional locker rooms that like college is so influenced by winning. Like that's a culture that every program creates, that if someone attempted to throw a game, it would be so against the values of that team. And that's where I think that's almost non-existent in college baseball. Whereas like guys are trying to play professional baseball, so they're trying to get paid. and the biggest thing to getting paid is your performance. So people aren't going to impact their performance and impact their ability to play at the next level for a gambling or for a gambling scandal. And also the team culture, I think, protects athletes from this stigma of potential scandals. Just having that team culture in college baseball is probably protecting a lot of athletes from corruption.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. I think when the value is to win, why would you not, like that's why y'all are there.
Yeah, exactly.
So looking at more recent things as of 2023, in April 2023, Alabama baseball coach Brad Bohannon gave insider information about a pitcher's injury report to a gambler, Brett Neff, who tried to place a $100,000 bet against Alabama. The bet was flagged as suspicious, and then Bohannon was fired, hit with a 15-year NCAA ban. Alabama was fined and put on probation for 3 years. Neff pleaded guilty to obstruction and faced up to 10 years in prison. And the reason why this matters is that it's one of the first major betting scandals in the college sports era of legalized gambling. And it's a huge warning about protecting game integrity. Had you heard of this before?
Briefly, I have not paid too much mind to it, though.
Okay. So, initial reaction, not so fazed.
Not shocked. I think coaches are in a lot different position than players, whereas they have more control over the game, and they know everything that's going on. So I think in college, coaches are probably a lot more susceptible to corruption than players, just because the upside is probably a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Unless they're, I still don't get it by any means, but they'd be sacrificing job security, obviously, for a payday that's probably not as much as their salary, the way that college, or especially college coaches in the SEC are getting paid these days. Mm-hmm. So I still don't get it.
What would you tell coaches who are considering?
Don't think about think about all of the kids you affected. Like if you look at the ripple effect of the Alabama coach doing that, it impacted that entire class. It impacted it impacted that entire team, which is 40 guys. It's going to impact the program of the school, the school's image. It's going to impact the players that are committed there. So it can affect generations of baseball players from wanting to play at Alabama or even like play college baseball if they think that this is their image of college baseball coaches.
Yeah. How would you feel like how would you feel if you found out that, say, Wes did something like this? Like, would you, I guess, give me a few words of emotions that you would feel.
That's a good one, especially knowing Wes and how against that he would be, right. Just based on his character. Betrayed, I think it would be the best one. Honestly, I don't really know if I can go much past betrayed, because I think that kind of encompasses how that how that feeling would be.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's not a huge thing talked about between all of y'all. Have your teammates talked about it ever, like the Alabama scandal?
I have a teammate that actually played at Alabama in 2022 and 2020. What year is it? 2023 and 2024. So, and I think we brought it up in joking, like what was that like? And it was like, yeah, that was weird. Yeah. So it's like, it's bizarre. I think he said that it was definitely a crazy experience. There's a lot of chaos going on. Like people didn't know if they were going to transfer. People didn't know if they were going to stay, and it just created a lot of chaos on the internal side of things. That kind of like what I was talking about, the ripple effect that scandals like this can have on players. Right.
Since this incident, do you feel like compliance staff have talked more about betting with y'all?
Yes. It's a lot different from VCU to here. So this is my first.
Yeah, what's it like? What's the difference?
I really don't even. I don't think people know they can bet on VCU. I don't even know if people can bet on VCU.
They can. You can bet on literally anything.
Well, people can bet on VCU. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
wouldn't affect me last year, but
They didn't talk about it.
No,
much?
we didn't talk about it. We have the like little quick like don't sports bet. You're gonna be ineligible, but that's the only reason they tell you not to sports bet, so you don't lose your eligibility.
Right.
They never really talk about insider betting, but in the SEC it's been a lot different because they started releasing injury reports like they do for other sports, and that was new to me. It was like you have to be, it's either you're probable, moderate, whatever, and that's been interesting. So I guess people can have more reliable, or it can be more reliable. Can have more reliable information for betting. I told my mom that, and she was like, "That's just sad." So that was the only conversation I've really had surrounding that. I was like, Mom, you're right. It is sad that. I was like, it's just sad. Like, it doesn't affect me. Like, but it's like one of those things where it's like you just shake your head and be like, well, if this is what people need to do to find joy, then I guess they can do that.
Doesn't it break your heart?
It does. It really does break my heart.
Yeah. Lastly, just like the abuse, have your friends, because you said you've had a pretty steady season, so you're probably not out here getting a ton of hate at this moment, but it could happen. It could happen.
Oh, it could.
What about some of your friends? Do they get caught up in that ever?
I think we definitely. I think we have some guys who might dwell on it, but I think we have a really good locker room identity, and is like, so if you're really struggling with like out or external opinion, you have your guys to back you up. It's like, hey, like that doesn't define you. They legitimately don't know what they're talking about because they don't see what goes on every day. And it's like, as long as you're like going out there and competing and giving your best effort, regardless of your performance, you have nothing to be ashamed of. And I think just kind of having that that focus on effort over performance when it comes down to performance issues, I think that's the best way for players to find peace.
Mm-hmm. To circle back to some things. Do you see what's on my computer right now?
I do see what's on your computer right now.
So were there any betting comments made after the Texas series? Y'all had been just demolishing. Y'all are still like destroying everybody, but like y'all like.
Yeah, we definitely hit a little hiccup in the Texas series and then the Vandy series.
So do you think that were there any betting comments like y'all should have done you should have done better, not like in with coaches or any like coaches telling you all that, but like were people getting comments or messages like that?
I don't think anything specific, like nothing player specific. I'm sure someone.
Will you ask and then
I can.
Report back?
I can.
Yeah.
I'll trickle it in. But we have guys that like, well, everyone after a game, after you play, first I do it sometimes just because it's funny. I'll look up my name on Twitter and just see what the feedback is. Oh yeah, it's fun.
So I've talked to other athletes and they don't do that because they're like, I don't want to get like caught up in that, so I won't look. But you think it's funny? Yeah,
it's funny. Like I do it to stroke my own ego sometimes, which is probably not particularly healthy. But what?
Right.
You have something for that?
No. Continue.
You have no comment for that?
No comment. Continue.
No comment. So like that's part of it sometimes, and then it's like sometimes like you see the hate like after the Kennesaw game, and I made the face. I got some flack for that. Like this kid's a douchebag. This kid's parents obviously didn't raise him right, like stuff like that. But I haven't had anything that's like performance related, just because I've been relatively consistent this season.
Yeah.
But some guys will. I know a few guys have gotten some negative feedback on the performance side, but I don't know if any of it was specifically betting related or if it was more
from
just
fans?
It was more Georgia related. It was
okay.
Like, it was more like, hey, you're impacting the dogs. Like it was. So
it's from fans, not necessarily like people who have
correct
money on their
correct.
performance.
Yeah, it's more fan hate on Twitter.
Okay.
Than anything.
Okay. Interesting.
I did get some hate from a kid on Kennesaw though.
What did he say?
He said, "Too bad I was early on your changeup. You grow the F up."
Bro, what?
That's still festering in my DMs on Twitter. I'll probably respond to him after the Kennesaw State game today. Something very nice and evangelistic.
Oh, that's good.
I'll show you what I almost sent him after it, and it was so overwhelmingly, so kind of sarcastic, but it was like also serious.
You are sarcastic?
Really?
You're sarcastic?
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, I guess we can finish off with what would you say to young pitchers entering the college world, specifically SEC pitchers, when it comes to just like the pressure? What would you say to them?
First thing I would say is make sure you find your identity in something that's bigger than baseball. For me, that's my faith, and I would heavily encourage other people to find their faith in Jesus like I have. But the biggest thing I would say is to make sure your identity lies outside of baseball, because that's the only way for you to maintain consistent in pressure situations or on and off the field. And the second thing would be make sure that you go out every game and play your heart out. All you can do is your best. And if you play as a competitor and your goal is to win, there's never going to be any doubt that you're invested in any sort of scandal. And those are two pieces that I would definitely pass on to players coming into the SEC.
And then when it comes to just how prevalent betting is now, it's going to continue. It's going to grow. It's not going anywhere. Would you add anything else to that degree of like how do you not get wrapped up in that? How do you not pay attention to that?
Frankly, I just do not care. Like I don't know. I've never been around culture where gambling is a big part of people's lives. Like my parents don't really gamble or bet. Or my parents don't gamble or bet at all, and that I think that heavily influences my view on it. So I pay it no mind because it's not something that's important to me. Like if I grew up around people that sports bet and saw like people getting upset or angry about how it affects them, and I had that association to negative emotions, I would probably have a little more sympathy. But I haven't been around that environment, so I have little to no sympathy for people who gamble in the capacity that I affect them. Is if people want me to feel the same way they feel about the decisions they made, that's not going to happen. But I have a lot of sympathy for people who struggle with gambling addictions, but not in the capacity that I'm going to let it impact the way I feel about myself.
Simply put, y'all are not there to appease gamblers.
Exactly.
So let that be an external thing that has nothing to do with your execution. Going back to that. Okay. Well, Brian, is there anything you want to say to the people listening? Goodbye.
Thank you for your time, Katie.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage all athletes in the future to play for an audience of one.
Yeah. All right. Peace out.